you. Good morning and welcome members to Cabinet here on Wednesday 6th of April 2022. Just to make a note that the meeting will be recorded and made available to view on the Council's website as per normal arrangements for our Council. If I can ask Mr Salter if you can turn your camera off for a second. Thank you. Welcome to the meeting, by the way.
Thank you. How do I turn the camera on?
Can you see that it should be top right hand side of your screen? That's brilliant. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Okay, and I'll go on to receive apologies. Do we have apologies? I think some are recorded in the chat, I do believe, but
I believe from Christina Harry, and then I got Mark Williams.
Okay, and I think Councillor Ross Whiting as well on our side as well. So if they
Thank
can be
you.
recorded. Thank you for the minutes. Declarations of interest. Councillors and officers are reminded of their personal responsibility to declare any personal and/or prejudicial interest in respect of any item of business on the agenda in accordance with the Local Government Act 2000, the Council's Constitution and the Code of Conduct for both councillors and officers. Does anyone have anything to declare? No, thank you. Okay, moving on to the next item on the agenda is to approve and sign the minutes from Cabinet held on 23rd of March. I'll go through page by page in terms of accuracy, so please shout or comment if there's anything that needs addressing. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and page 6. Can I have a mover and seconder for those, please?
Move.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. Thank you, Councillor George. Thank you. That's moved and seconded. Can I have a show of hands to accept those? Is that correct? Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Obviously, standard item on the agenda is to note the Cabinet Forward Work Programme as detailed, and as was explained in the last meeting, this is just taking us up to the election. And are there any amendments there that anyone needs to make? Everyone's happy with those. If I can have a show of hands in regard to the Forward Work Programme. Thank you very much. Thank you all. They've been moved. They've been approved. Thank you very much. And on to the next item on the agenda is to receive and consider the following reports in relation to 21st Century Schools Band B proposal, statutory objection report for Llancaeg Junior and Llanfabon Infants. If I can hand over to Councillor Stenner, please.
Thank you, Leader. This report is a further update to Cabinet on the 21st Century Schools Band B proposal to amalgamate Llancaeg Junior School and Llanfabon Infant School to create a new 3 to 11 year primary school on the site of the existing Llanfabon Infant School. Cabinet will recall that it approved this proposal progressing to the statutory notice phase on the 26th of January 2022. The formal objection period as part of the statutory notice ran between the 1st of February to the 28th of February 2022 and was widely advertised to potential objectors, including those set out in the School Organisation Code 2018. Members will see under 5.3.6 of this report that no objections were received during the objection period. An objection report has been attached as Appendix 1 for consistency and transparency, although this was not mandatory. With this in mind, I would like to move the recommendations contained in the report under 3.1 that Cabinet note the information contained in the objection period summary report, approve the recommendation to proceed to planning application stage, approve the recommendation to proceed to full business case submission to Welsh Government, for the reasons contained throughout the report, especially from 4.1 to 4.3. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stenner. Councillor Whitcomb, please.
Thank you, Leader. I'm more than happy to second this report. It expands educational provision in the borough, and I'm more than happy to move the recommendation at second the recommendation at 3.1. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that, Councillor Whitcomb. Before I go to any comments on this report, could I invite any officers, Sue Richards or Andrea West, to come in and make any further comments on the report? Hi, Sue.
Hi, Leader. Just to say from the team's perspective, it's really reassuring there's been no objections to the proposal. Welcome the opportunity now to push forward with the business case and followed by planning. So that's all I need to say today, Leader. Good news.
Okay, thank you ever so much, Sue. Thank you ever so much. Yeah, absolutely pleasing to see that there were no objections received through the statutory notice of the objection period. Really pleasing to see, and as I note that all of these reports, and we approved the forward going on this plan many months ago, and also the fact that scrutiny received this, favourably as well. It's really pleasing, isn't it, that we can now proceed to the next stage in terms of the business case, the full business case. So very pleasing to see. Do I have any comments or any questions for officers from any of the Cabinet in relation to this? I know Councillor Pritchard is unable to speak. Well, you can speak, but no microphone. Okay, there are no further comments. So I think it's very pleasing to see there were no objections received, and as you've detailed in the appendix, that's really pleasing. And as you say, from transparency, that's really important that we know that as well. Okay, well, there are no questions for you or Sue, Andrea, then thanks for attending, but I think we'll go to the vote. That's unanimous. Thank you ever so much. Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Andrea, for your time. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is to receive a report in relation to social care provider fee increases 2022 to 23. If I can call in Councillor Cook, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The report sets out the financial pressures that providers of commissioned care are experiencing because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Pressures such as recruitment and retention of staff, which is leading to packages of care going unbrokered, the introduction of the real living wage at £9.90 an hour, increase in pension costs, the introduction of the social care levy at 1.25%, increased insurance costs, which some have seen double and some companies will no longer provide cover, general price inflation, which has recently been reported at 7.8%. To address the financial pressures and maintain the financial viability of care providers, this report proposes fee uplifts. The report also proposed that monies be allocated from the social care growth funding held within the corporate finance budget for 2022-23 to fund the impact of the proposed fee uplifts. Therefore, I'm very happy to move recommendations 3.1. The financial pressures faced on the social care sector at present are acknowledged and the proposed fee increases summarised in paragraph 5.4 are agreed. And at 3.2, that 3,755,886 be allocated from the social care growth funding held within the corporate finance budget to fund the impact of the recommended fee uplifts set out in paragraph 5.4. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cook. If I can go to Councillor Gordon, please.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Happy to second the recommendations of 3.1 and 3.2.
Okay, thank you for that both. Dave Street, would you like to make any further comments in relation to the recommendations?
Thank you, Leader. No, Councillor Cook has covered off those main cost pressures that providers are facing. Cost pressures in this area are not new. They were providers were in difficulty prior to the pandemic. And really it's only been the sort of Welsh Government hardship monies that have kept many of those providers going. Our hardship fund ceased on the 31st of March. And so clearly now we will need to step into that space as the Commissioner. The inflationary increases and the uplifts that you have in front of you this morning means that those providers will continue to be viable over the next 12 months. We continue to make representations to Welsh Government for a greater level of funding. We would like our carers to be paid more than £9.90 real living wage. The ADSS, the Association of Directors of Social Services, are recommending a wage rate for carers of £12 an hour, but we're clearly some way away from that. But I think what you have in front of you this morning will mean that we've got a viable independent sector for the next 12 months. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks ever so much for highlighting that. And I couldn't agree more in relation to the funding that we've had via the hardship fund, and many of these businesses would have gone to the wall otherwise. And it just highlights, doesn't it, the implicit nature that, you know, Commission Care Services are struggling across the piece, and they have been for many, many years. So it's great to see that we've set aside, or we're going to set aside this money, you know, to see the viability for the next 12 months, which is reassuring for, obviously, for the members of the public out there as well. So thank you for that, Dave. Thank you for adding a bit more to the report there. I can't see any hands up in relation to this. So I think it's obvious in terms of the recommendations set out at 3.1 and 3.2 where we're going on this, and how important that the money is set aside. So without further ado, I think we'll go to the vote. That's unanimous. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so moving to the next report, which is the proposal to increase Hackney carriage fare tariffs. If I can ask Councillor George to move the report, please.
Thank you, Leader. The purpose of the report is to inform Cabinet of the request received from the licensed trade for an increase in the tariffs of fares for Hackney carriages, and the results of a consultation exercise with the trade on the amended tariff. Is to seek Cabinet approval to advertise the proposed amended tariff of fares for a statutory 14 days public consultation. In summary, requests have been received from the Caerphilly County Borough Taxi Drivers Association and the Hackney Carriage Vehicle Proprietors for the current Hackney carriages fares tariffs to be increased. The current tariff has been in place since 2018, should be reviewed in line with the current economic climate, particularly the impact of the crisis in the Ukraine on fuel prices. The report outlines the details of the requests and the method by which this can be achieved. Before I move on to the recommendations, I'd like to stress that in light of some of the rumours that are out there in the public domain, this request has come off the Taxi Drivers Association, not as being said that the council is imposing fare increases on the taxis. And I think the Taxi Drivers Association and the Hackney Carriage Vehicle Proprietors have joined the meeting today, so they will be able to collaborate this. If we move on to the recommendations, it is the Cabinet consider the contents of this report, and in accordance with the views of the Taxi and General Committee detailed in the consultation section below, it is recommended the Cabinet approve the tariff of fares for Hackney carriages vehicles as detailed within Appendix G for publication in the press for the 14-day statutory public consultation period. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor George. If I can go to Councillor Whitcomb, please.
Thank you, Leader. I'm more than happy to second the recommendations at 3.1. Thank you, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much, both. Thank you for that. I can see that obviously we are joined by two people here today that wanted to speak in relation to the report that's before us, Cabinet. So I'm going to invite Mr. George Edwards in first, please. And then I'll call it officers. Thank you. Over to you.
Good morning, members. In regards to the report that's before you, we just wanted to obviously consider the report that the licensing committee voted on the other day, and obviously these are small increases at the moment because this is something we're looking to work with licensing now, and in the future possibly have smaller increases on a much more regular basis rather than every 4 years. So obviously at the moment it's a small increase. It doesn't meet the fuel increase that's happening every day, but something's better than nothing. And obviously we're looking in the future to just have this gradually climb on a regular basis, not every 4 years or every 5 years, because we find that when we leave it for such a long time and then have an increase, the public tend to complain more because obviously we've left it so long and then we have such a high increase. So obviously I just want to say thank you for considering the report that's before you this morning.
Thank you ever so much, George. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Salter, is it, that's with us as well? If I can invite you to say a few words, please.
Yeah, hello. my opinion of this is that the request to have the tariff 2 all weekend is one it just seems to be facilitating weekend taxi drivers. In my mind, it's greed, because taxis are inherently busier at the weekend anyway, so we earn more money on the weekend without having tariff 2 day and night. And I think it's very unfair on the customers, because they're then going to have to pay a much higher rate for taxis to go shopping, go out to Sunday dinner, our daytime weekend trade, which means a lot to me and my company. And I feel that we're going to literally price ourselves out if we agree with this tariff 2 all weekend. Where we need a bit more money is on the start-off fare during the week, basically on the day-to-day taxis during the day. And that seems to have been, with the Taxi Association, they've gone for a very small increase on the start-off price, but yet they're going for this tariff 2 all weekend. Well, that suits people who only want a taxi on the weekend and make a lot of money, but it doesn't suit the customers, and it doesn't suit the trade in general. And I'm worried that with the cost of living going up so much for everybody in all respects, heating and their other day-to-day living costs, that taxis are literally going to price themselves out on the weekend. But where we need some help is during the week on the daytime work. And 30 to 40 pence on a start-off price of a daytime taxi, that adds up for a driver, but it doesn't mean a lot to the customer. So that's my opinion on this at the moment, and I'm kind of objecting to what has already gone through.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Salter. Thank you for setting those points out, and I appreciate you taking the time to come and join us today as well. Thank you. Okay, I've got some officers here with us. Rob Hartshorn, would you like to just come in and maybe add something further to the report as well? And then I think Lee Morgan is with us as well, but I think it would be helpful for members just to hear the rationale behind the recommendations as well.
Yes, thank you, Leader. So this is quite a complex area. So as you say, I am joined by Lee Morgan, our licensing manager, and there are a range of variables. And if you look through the various appendices in the report, you can see that there are different aspects of this that you can change to achieve an overall outcome. So we had two different proposals, slightly different proposals, both for increases, which, as Councillor George has highlighted, were subject to a consultation. And then these issues have also been considered at the Taxi and General Licensing Committee, who have settled on a proposal which is set out at Appendix G. I suppose what I would highlight is that the committee have listened to some of the representations and have tried to settle on a balance which is recognising, the committee was sympathetic to the pressures on the trade, but also keeping in mind that the cost of living increases are obviously affecting all of our communities, and for some people the taxi trade are an essential public service that enable people to go about their usual business. So there are different aspects of this that can be altered. Overall, the proposal is for an increase, so an increase in the fare, an increase in terms of the application time for tariff 2, as Mr. Salter has highlighted, and an increase in the fare for waiting time. That is the balance that the Taxi and General Committee have settled upon, and so I think that members would probably wish to give weight to that. Just to emphasise, as Councillor George highlighted, the process here is that we do address these on a request from the trade, and as Mr. Edwards has said, it probably would be desirable if the trade were to come forward more often and submit these requests so that there could be gradual increases in response to cost of living increases, rather than what might be sort of step changes when this is only looked at every few years. So thank you, Leader. Those are the points that I wanted to highlight, and obviously if there's any more detailed questions around the tariffs in the appendices, then as I've mentioned, Lee Morgan is also here to assist members with that.
Okay, thanks ever so much for that and running us through that. And obviously it is a very complex thing, and I think what's been highlighted here is that we need regular sort of uplifts. Really, we need to look at this on a more regular basis, probably yearly. That's where I would come on this, so we don't end up in a situation where we get such a marked increase that it impacts everyone. I absolutely get where you're coming from, Mr. Salter, in your concerns, but I think we need to take note of what the licensing committee has recommended towards today. Councillor Cook, would you like to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. It's just a question. In Appendix G, what impact would be on bank holidays? So what kind of tell us what kind of increases on bank holidays for Christmas Day or Easter?
That is in there, but yeah, Lee, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I can do. Thank you, Leader. Councillor Cook. Yes, the tables which will provide you with what the differences will be in respect of both proposals, A or B, but the proposal B is what the members of the Taxing General Committee determined. If you look at page 63 of your bundle this morning, you'll be looking then at tariffs 3, 4 and 5 effectively, which will detail the amounts or the differences that passengers would pay during bank holiday period. So it's there for you in the report there. It gives the increases as in pence and pounds, and obviously a percentage increase as well. So that information is there, if that helps at all.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I just want to see. I can see the increase. Sorry. Apologies. I did see it all. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay. Are there any other questions or comments that would like to be made in relation to this? Okay, I think what should be noted is the fact that we need to review these on a more regular basis, taking into many considerations, most notably what Mr. Salter said in relation to the weekends and versus the day. I think that's something that maybe we should be coming back to licensing, on a regular basis, so we can react, more appropriately, should I say, in regard to this. So that's kind of that's just my comment really on it, my personal comment in relation to this going forward. Okay, there are no further comments on that. So thank you, Mr. Salter. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for your time today. Appreciate you coming along and joining us. So I think without further ado, we'll go to the vote. Okay, that's approved. Okay, thank you. And again, as I said, I think it's really important that we look forward to looking at the views of Mr. Salter in due course in other meetings, if we are able, please. Okay, thank you, Lee. Thank you, Rob, for your time today. I will now call the meeting to a close. So that is Cabinet ending at